Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Productive. JCTU satisfied with meeting with Finance Minister in ongoing salary negotiation issues. Outgoing Police Commissioner says war on gangs in Westmoreland will continue. And later in sports, doubleheader on the cards as action returns in Jamaica Premier League. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. The Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU, met with Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark on Saturday to address issues affecting public sector workers. President of the JCTU, St. Patrice Ennis, says the group is satisfied with the outcome of the meeting as talks on outstanding issues such as public sector compensation negotiations were productive. He says they agreed in principle on all matters. Mr. Ennis was speaking Sunday on Radio Jamaica's That's a Wrap program.
On all the items that we had enumerated in our letter to him and also in our ultimatum to him, we have managed to have an agreement in principle with respect to all of them. What is left now is for that agreement in principle to be reduced to writing, and we expect that to take place on Monday, where we can look at it, have a conversation with our board to see whether we have been, both us and the minister and his team, were actually agreeing to exactly the same thing.
Mr. Ennis says concerns relating to various benefits for workers were also addressed.
We had a reasonable good meeting and that we have no dispute at the moment. And so that is what we have to communicate to our workers, that all the items, whether it is the increment, subsistence, all of them, traveling and so on, we have had some agreement in principle with respect to all of them.
Meanwhile, the University of Technology Academic Staff Union says progress was made at Sunday's meeting with the Ministers of Finance and Education in resolving the concerns with their compensation review. The opposition spokesman on finance, Gillian Robinson, has weighed in on issues surrounding the compensation package for public sector workers. Mr. Robinson was speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica on Monday. Shamela Pullen reports.
The latest groups to voice concerns about the government's compensation review include the Association of Government Medical Consultants and the University of Technology Academic Staff Union. They are not happy with the current salary offer under the new compensation review. Opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson, says there are a number of areas that need to be addressed.
For example, traveling officers is one. You have traveling officers who were taking up to 50 to 60% of their compensation in allowances, which were non-taxable before the review. You have now rolled up those allowances into your gross salary. So when you net it out, many of them are only marginally ahead. And in some cases, some of them are worse off. That has to be addressed.
Mr. Robinson says there are persons who are in supervisory positions and are earning less than those they're supervising.
For example, in municipal corporations, some of the CEOs are earning less money than people who they have to supervise.
Some of the CEOs?
Yes, less money. It's an anomaly, but you see, the public sector is 110,000 people. You have some people who are affected, but it's taken too long to resolve these issues. And that's why you've seen the Civil Service Association, they are restive. I know they had a meeting Saturday. They seem to have come to some resolution. UTech staff restive. Now the medical doctors are restive.
He's calling on the Ministry of Finance to address the issue soon. He says one of the main complaints received is that the Ministry of Finance is not responding to them in a timely manner. As
such, if people feel that you're not dealing with their issues, they're going to get restive, and they feel that the only way you're going to respond is if they threaten strike action.
Complex issue though, eh?
It is. I mean,
And some gains have been made.
Gains, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there have been increases and the realignment, the reduction of the different levels. So, yes, there have been positive things, but you have to address those outstanding issues because to an individual who is affected, it's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
The police commissioner says the counter-offensive will continue against criminal gangs wreaking havoc in Westmoreland. Major General Anthony Anderson says so far, one of the security operations has neutralized one of the gang members who chose to challenge the police. More from Dwayne Anderson.
Parents, teachers and other stakeholders seated inside a classroom at the Grange Hill High School in Westmoreland on Friday. The students were absent because teaching and learning was disrupted due to threats from gangsters. Lessons were taught online Thursday and Friday. So on Friday, when Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson met with the stakeholders, he sought to reassure them that the JC's response was already ongoing.
Where we have identifiable criminals doing things. As you know, we have a set of gangsters from down here in front of the courts now, from one of the gangs. I hear 3 more of them are involved. Well, we have enough space for them to arrest them and put the 3 other set in front of the courts. But we will not allow them to take over your community.
The commissioner told residents the criminals are not their protectors nor friends, and they will turn their guns on law-abiding residents any chance they get.
The criminals who we have no concern about anybody else around them. In their interest at getting at each other, they're quite willing to put everybody else at risk. So we must know who we're dealing with and not fantasize that somehow that these people have any benefit whatsoever to the community. They have none, no benefit. They are parasites.
The commissioner said that the police were able to secure big reductions in crime in Westmoreland last year, which is proof the situation can be fixed and will be fixed.
Even if you're having reductions overall, the reality is where it happens and the people involved are afraid and become afraid. So it's really for us in the very immediate term to start dealing with the problem, the fire that is burning our heels. As you say, we've run some operations. I believe we have got one of the persons so far who chose his particular route that he will take on the police, and the rest is history. And there are more of them. But one thing for sure is that those gang cases will continue to be built and will continue to erode their capacity and power.
Face-to-face classes are expected to resume at the Grange Hill High School on Monday. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
There's a call this afternoon for increased police presence in the Whitfield Town area in St. Andrew. The call comes from the Member of Parliament for the St. Andrew South Western constituency following a firebombing incident. Details in this report. Several people have been displaced after their homes were firebombed on the weekend. It's not clear at this time what led to this recent incident, but the political representative is calling for the security force to intervene. Member of Parliament for the area, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, says the Whitfield Town division in her constituency has not been receiving the required attention from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, despite the flare-up of violence in the area.
I believe for too long there just has been nobody, no police presence in the space, because the police post is not a presence that deters anything.
Dr. Brown-Burke says there has been 3 fires in the constituency recently. She says 2 of the fires are suspected to be the work of arsonists. However, they are awaiting the reports of the Jamaica Fire Brigade.
We say 2, but I mean, we're not really talking about 1 yard, it's several yards we're talking about that have been affected. In one case, you have probably about 11, 12 families at least that were there.
One of the victims, who says he has been living at Metcalfe Road for the past 50 years, says this is the worst he has seen the violence in the area.
Right now, it seems like the people are living in fear now. Understand? Everybody afraid of them life right now. Understand? Because what is going on right now, we don't see where them a fight for. We don't see where them a fight for. We don't see the reason this right now flare up and happen. You kill my brother, then we don't come back now, we don't burn down the whole place. We not fight, we still here. Because what? We have the police, we can deal with it, so we do not fight.
Truth is that there is a level of tension in the community, and there is a level of frustration by a number of members in the community who would like to see hardworking people live without that kind of fear.
4 persons were taken to hospital, 2 of whom are in serious condition after a motor vehicle crashed along the P.J. Patterson Highway this morning. According to reports, sometime after 7 o'clock, a Toyota Corolla motor car was traveling towards Kingston when upon reaching the vicinity of Bogos, the driver lost control of the vehicle. Superintendent Winchester Watson from the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB, says the vehicle then slammed into a guardrail.
The vehicle immediately was engulfed in flames. There were 4 members aboard, 2 of whom had received minor burns, while 2 were seriously burnt. They were all rushed to the Jamaican hospital, and the fire unit from Old Harbour came on the scene and cooled down the scene there.
Superintendent Watson says the details of the incident is not yet known, but the police are continuing their investigation.
Well, once the driver is in a position to speak with the police, then the question will be asked for him to give an account as to what really took place. Because of the nature, they were removed before the police actually went on the scene. But I know he is one of who would have gone to the hospital. I suspect they were taken by passers-by. So most times, passers-by, they are always willing to assist injured persons, and they normally get there before the police.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Bishop Conrad Pitkin will lead the National Identification and Registration Authority, NIRA. This was announced on Sunday. Now, he's among the 9 people who were selected by the government to head the authorities. To head the authority, which will be responsible for the rollout of a national identification system, NIDS. A release from the Office of the Prime Minister notes that the establishment of the authority represents a commitment to the modernization, efficiency, and the safeguarding of citizens' rights. NIDS has been touted as a cornerstone of the Holness government's efforts to enhance national security, improve access to government services, and foster socio-economic development.
This office is there to carry out a function of the state that continues regardless of who is in government or what the political policies are. This is about the establishment, the protection, and the utility of citizens' identity, citizens' records, and the registry, the civil registry within which these are entailed and protected.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness maintains that the move is one which gives Jamaica the impetus to become a fully digital society.
And not a digital society where there is a digital divide, where only some people can participate and others can't.
Other members of the authority include Georgia Hamilton, Reverend Newton Dixon, Kenrick Steele, Alok Jane, Maria Thompson Walters, Sharika Hemmings Allison, Emil Holgate, and Gordon Christopher Record. According to the government, NIDS will provide a safe, convenient, and reliable means of verifying an individual's identity. And it's now time for the Business Minute. Annual inflation was 6.2% as at February this year. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin says this was influenced mainly by the point-to-point inflation rates for the divisions food and non-alcoholic beverages, up 7.7%. Transport-related costs were up 9.6%, while inflation for the restaurants and accommodation category was up 8.2%. The point-to-point rate was just marginally outside of the BOJ's 4 to 6% target range for inflation. For the month of February alone, the cost of goods and services rose 0.6% compared to January. This was mainly influenced by a 1.1% decrease in the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages. Further afield, JP Morgan Chase has been fined $348 million for failing to properly monitor the trading activities of its clients and businesses. The hefty penalty is a combination of fines issued by the Federal Reserve and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Regulators say the monitoring lapses occurred between 2014 and last year. They also say JP Morgan failed to monitor trades across 30 different platforms and revenues. Regulators use that trading data as a guide to preventing insider trading and market manipulation. Now, a JP Morgan spokesman says the bank self-identified the issue and notified regulators. And that's it for the Business Minute. It's now time for the top regional and international stories with Halshane Burke.
In the region, the United Nations Children's Agency says one of its containers carrying essential supplies for the survival of newborns and their mothers was looted by gangs at Haiti's main port in the capital. Authorities have been struggling to bring a stop to the civil unrest in the country, including criminal attacks on government facilities. The international community has been sending supplies to assist. UNICEF says a container with items for maternal, neonatal and child survival, including resuscitators and related equipment, as well as critical supplies for early childhood development and education and water equipment, was one of 7 of its containers looted in the early morning. UNICEF representative in Haiti, Bruno Mays, says the theft of the supplies occurred at a critical moment when children need them the most. On the international scene, Russian President Vladimir Putin has tightened his grip on the country, with near complete results from Russia's stage-managed election indicating a predictably large victory for the Kremlin leader in a result that was a foregone conclusion. With 99.8% of ballots counted, Putin amassed 87.3% of the vote. The result means Putin will rule until at least 2030, when he will be 77. And the US is voicing concerns over civilian safety in Gaza, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doubling down yesterday on his vow to invade Rafah. He promises to evacuate the more than 1 million civilians there, but US officials are skeptical. They say getting innocent people out could be even harder than getting aid in. That's so difficult, the US and other countries are building a floating dock to access Rafah by water. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden is reiterating his call for a ceasefire and ultimately a two-state solution. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Halshane Burke.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Jordan Ford will have your midday sports report.